All right, good afternoon. I'm Executive Assistant Chief Larry Satterwhite. With me is Chief Rui Lozano for the HFD, and I also have Assistant Chief Patty Cantu and Assistant Chief Bantin with me. We're on the scene of a homicide that occurred at this building behind us at 3800 Cummins Street. I think it's going to be called the 20 Greenway Plaza building. And the first thing I want the public to know is that we believe we have the suspect in custody. So no one else, we don't believe anybody else is at risk from this individual or this incident. This is what we know, still preliminary, and information may change, but this is what we know right now. At 11:58 a.m., right before noon, we received a call, a dispatch call to this location for a shooting, active shooter situation. We had officers close, and within 3 months, they arrived on the scene, and immediately, in 3 minutes, they arrived on the scene and went immediately up to the building. It apparently occurred on the 10th floor of the building, and our officers went down there to stop any killing and to protect the public and get the suspect in custody. They did not engage the suspect on the 10th floor, and we started bringing in additional units because we didn't know where he was, but we did believe that he was in the building somewhere, armed. So as you can see behind us, we have a lot of officers on the scene, and we had officers respond all over the city because this is an active building. All floors are occupied by workers that were still in the building, many of them sheltering in place, and we just didn't know where he was, and so we brought officers from all over and went to every floor of the building to secure it, to protect the people on those floors as we tried to find this individual before anything else could happen. This took some time, and the information was still coming in little by little, but eventually we had the suspect's information, and we started going to the location where he lives, or we believe he lives, over at 1625 Fannin, 1625 Fannin, which is a high-rise over there apartment building. It was there at approximately 2 o'clock. Our officers that were on that location did locate the suspect that we were looking for because witnesses here identified him and took him into custody. He was in a vehicle, and they called him out, and he did surrender there. What is his tie to the building? He is an employee, is what we're being told, of the building and working on the 10th floor. Our victim is reportedly his supervisor, and all of this occurred on the 10th floor where they both work. We do not know why he chose to target his supervisor. We do believe he did target him because he passed up everybody else. We do not think this was random, but that he was actually looking for his supervisor and targeted him specifically. And sadly, he did shoot his supervisor on that floor, and his supervisor did pass on that floor. And I'm going to turn over to HFD Chief Lozano to talk a little bit more about that. At this point, our victim was a black male, and our suspect is a black male, we believe. So we're still trying to confirm all of those other things, and again, we just don't know why he did that. For the other people in the building, no one else was hurt as far as we know. They were all sheltered in place and covered by our officers that made it to each floor to protect them. And now, as you'll see, we are slowly bringing them out floor by floor. HFD is on scene, standby to check on anybody that might be having any complications so we can take care of them. Again, this is an active scene. There will be a lot more information to gather. This will go long into the day. Homicide has now got the scene, and they are working on working on the investigation to determine all the things that are necessary to figure out why and make sure this is handled properly. And with that, I want to turn it over to Chief Lozano real quick for a few comments about what they did and what they're doing on the scene. And then after that, we'll take questions from all of you. And then we also have a translation from Spanish by Chief Cantu following the questions.
Thank you, Chief. So, Assistant Fire Chief Rui Lozano, the Houston Fire Department was here to provide assistance to HPD to the situation with the shooting. At approximately 12:10, Houston Fire Department Rescue Task Force medic went in under the cover of HPD and pronounced the victim. The victim had a fatal gunshot wound to the head. There was no efforts possible to revive the patient, and then they retreated to a protective posture, and we've been on standby and will continue to be standby to provide any assistance to anyone that is affected by this tragedy. Thank you.
Any questions for Chief?
Questions?
Obviously, murder is on the table there, but what are the exact charges that this man faces, the suspect that is?
I mean, right now, I mean, murder is what we believe in will be the charge, but again, the investigation has to proceed, so we'll know that for certain, and that'll all be out very soon. We just, at this point, it's still under investigation. But murder is probably, I would believe, yes.
Are there any metal detectors going into the building, or what's the security process floor by floor?
So I am not certain of all the building's security apparatus on site. It's a private building, and so I'd have to get that information. Obviously, they do have some camera systems in there and access cards and all of this. Again, this individual was an employee and had access throughout the building, our suspect. So that was the concern, that he could be on any floor until we verified his whereabouts, and we were afraid that he could come out anywhere, and if this was an actual active shooter, then he could have harmed other people very quickly. So that's why we had to flood the building with officers as quickly as possible and secure everything until we could locate him.
So did he show up to work this morning, and then what kind of situation?
So right now, he did arrive at work today. I don't know what time he arrived at work yet today, but we don't have any information that there was any ongoing dispute or problem. Again, that may emerge later. It would seem so, since he seemed to target his own supervisor. But right now, the information is that he was not an employee having problems that we can surmise at this point. Again, we'll get more information on that.
Do you know if there was a meeting prior, moments prior?
I don't have that information. Nothing's been told to me at that time. Part of the investigation, we will know more later.
Was that the age of the shooter and the victim?
We are still working on that, because we did take him in custody at what we believe is where he lives, which is over off of Fannin, and there'll be warrants served, and we'll be searching for weapons. I don't have that information this time.
Any age on the victim and the shooter?
You know, I don't have that right now, so apologies, but I will get that information for you.
How old was the suspect?
Again, I have personally not witnessed either one, because we've been managing from other places. The suspect was arrested off-site, so I will get all that information. From appearance, I have seen a photo of our suspect, and he appears to be 30s age range.
What's the business that takes place on the 10th floor? We hear it's an energy building, also finance.
I think like solar panels, I think is a part of the business. Maybe 70% of the business is what I was told. I don't know for a fact.
And when you talk to people who left the building, you said just recently there was active shooter training. Do you feel that helped secure people?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Walk us through that?
absolutely. Well, so yeah, a lot of private industry, which is what we recommend, are taking the initiative to get their own employees trained in the event. You know, God forbid something like this was to happen in their building. You know, I mean, it's like anything else. In times of crisis, you revert to what you've been trained and what you're thinking about. And in this particular case, if you've had this type of training and prepared for this, if you're mentally prepared for something going on, whether that's an active shooter in a building or just being out and about with your family or loved ones, think through the things you might do and how you can avoid danger. That will certainly protect you.
And how many employees would you say were in the same floor?
I really don't know. It could be 60 to 100. I really don't know.
Do you have the name again of the specific business?
I don't have the name of the business. I have the name of the building, 20 Greenway Plaza building, which I think carries the address 3800 Cummings. So I'm pretty sure of that.
You said you were called here at noon. What time was the suspect detained?
2 o'clock, we had him in custody.
So for those 2 hours, your
Yes,
officers
sir.
were
Yes,
canvassing
so
the
that's
building?
right. And it just, as you might imagine, it just takes a lot of time until we can locate him. And until we have located him, the threat still exists.
Does there appear to be an issue with his mental state, or does this? Or are we not there yet?
We're not there yet. I mean, all of those things are going to be determined, or they'll be uncovered very shortly. Our homicide team is working on that, and we'll have that information. We just don't have it right now.
And as far as when y'all took him into custody, he was peaceful, I suppose, at that point? Or
He did surrender. I wasn't on scene to tell you exactly what his demeanor was. I just know that he surrendered, and no one else was injured.
Did he
Last
confront-
question.
Did he confront his supervisor in his actual office and kind of walk him there?
I don't know that information exactly. I don't know how quickly he resorted to violence from the time he approached his supervisor. Information, witnesses, more to come.
Following up on her question, can you describe the setting of that 10th floor? Was it
I can't,
in
because
an
I didn't-
office, in a cubicle space, cafeteria?
So I can't, maybe Chief Lozano can, but neither one of us went up there. So I'm not willing to tell you exactly the layout of that floor. So again, we can find that out later for you.
Do you have the answers?